Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Cheyenne, Loving Warrior for Christ, and I just want to make this video to warn as many people as I possibly can. If you're in one of these FEMA camps, it'd be better if you try and find somewhere else to go while you still have time. Look for some friends that live in other states, or find a good church that's not part of the New World Order, and try and find some help like that, or just go and camp out somewhere. Just stay out of the camps, because these camps are not as they seem. It's ran by the government, of course, and they want to bring in the New World Order, and I do have videos that support this. The New World Order is about a one world currency, a one world religion, a one world government, a one world leader, and this one world leader would be the Antichrist that the Bible has warned us about. And it will also bring in a mark of the beast, like an RFID chip or some kind of sticker or something that will go on your right hand or your forehead. It's not a Sunday law like some people might think. It's actually a literal mark, because it will be used to buy and sell. It says so in the Bible. So if you're in one of these camps and they try to offer you a microchip in order for you to eat while you're in these camps, do not take it, because this is the mark of the beast. Once you get this mark, you will be selling your soul to Satan, and there's nothing you can do to fix that after you've made that mistake. You will be burning in hell with the fallen angels and Satan whenever Jesus comes and tosses them back into the pits of hell. So please do not get this RFID chip or any kind of mark that goes on your hand or your forehead. Stay away from it. In the past, there's been some homeless people that have disappeared, and there's been news stories about them being put into FEMA camps, and there's been some articles written about them being forced to receive a mark in their hand or their forehead in order for them to be part of this FEMA camp. So the New World Order is in such a hurry to try and get this going, because they know they're running out of time. And so they are causing a lot of this chaos and disasters. They have a machine that they call HAART that can modify the weather and cause disasters. You know, we could be under a war, or we could be in a war and not realize it, because they're using other methods like modifying the weather to cause chaos and disasters, and causing people to lose their homes and taking lives. And people just think of it as Mother Nature. I don't know if y'all just heard that in the background, but there was somebody at the window, and I went outside to check, but there was no one out there. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, well, anyways, my point is, just stay out of these FEMA camps, because eventually they will turn into a concentration camp, and they will demand that you denounce your faith in Jesus Christ and accept their mark. And you do not want to do this, because once you do, like I said before, you will be selling your soul to Satan, and there's nothing you could do to fix that. And never denounce your faith in Jesus Christ. Well, also I wanted to point out that our world is being ran by reptilians, and these reptilians is the Nephilim that the Bible speaks about in Genesis 6, about how the fallen angels came to earth and they picked them out a wife, and they had children that were different, that were giants. Research this yourself. And also research in the Bible where it speaks about these giants that had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on on each of their foot. Just research it. And also how one of them had a large bed, and that it says that they were like grasshoppers in the sight of these giants. There's actually tribes of giants that are listed in the Bible in the Old Testament, and these were the ones that were being murdered and killed by God. You know, that a lot of atheists like to point out, why did God kill so many people? Well, the ones that were being killed were not humans. They were these Nephilim hybrid giants that were being killed. And this is the reason why we had the flood too, so God could rid the earth of these hybrids, and you know, just get rid of them. And you know, some of them might have actually survived the flood, or they came back. I'm not sure how this worked, but they're here now, and they're trying to control this world, and they're in high authority like government positions, and they're the ones who are at war with us humans, and they're the ones that are causing weather modifications to, to attack us, and we don't even realize that we're under attack. And also the Bible says that God's going to destroy them that destroys this earth. And so every time they modify the weather to destroy the earth and destroy people's homes and take people's lives, God's going to punish them for it. And please watch the videos that I added to this. It's a long video, but after you watch all these videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like in New York, they put the Queen of Death, her name is Shiva, on the Empire State Building, and she's represents war and destruction, and if you research what Harvey meant and what Wichita Falls means, you'll see the connection. Just research all this, and just know that we are under attack, and we don't need to run to our government officials for safety. We need to take care of ourselves, because these government officials, they really don't care about your safety. They really don't care about you, period. And what only thing they care about is getting you microchipped with the RFID chip, the mark of the beast, and having you comply with the New World Order system. And that's the beast system that the Bible talks about, and we've been warned. So please do not go to these FEMA camps. Stay out of them, and warn as many people as you possibly can. I just have a scenario I wanted to share with y'all. If you have a bunch of people that are, like in this FEMA camp, like a Walmart, and they lose power, and they lose their cell phone services, and they're pretty much in the dark, and they can't use any phones or any communication to get out to other people in other parts of the world to let others know what's going on. And these people, like the government is, or people are trying to, cause harm or kill people. It would be so simple to do, especially if they have no way to communicate with the outside world. And basically they could take and put a like a disease of some sort, like something that's very deadly, the Ebola virus or something like that, and release it inside that community where they're staying, and people will just drop dead like flies, and the people that are in these camps won't even know that they were under attack, because they just think it was just bad luck that people are just getting sick, and then they get quarantined where they can't leave the building because of this virus or whatever sicknesses. It's really not a good idea to be in a FEMA camp, in my opinion, because you just never know what could happen, and it'd be better, like I said before, find some other way to take care of yourself and your family, and just stay out of these FEMA camps, because you just never know, like I said. And you'd be safer if you go and camp out somewhere. Well, please watch the rest of this video, and it is long, but if you watch it all, you'll see what I'm trying to say here. And I love you all, and God bless you.
Is because some of these people, this is a new normal. They're never going to go back home. So they want to help them as much so that they're never just walking out of here and feeling like they're going back onto the street. They've worked with them throughout the process here to help them adjust to this new world order that they're going to be living in after this.
Oh, and I imagine there's so many questions, so much concern, and all of those people. It was almost like on cue when you're talking about the army of volunteers. A flock of nuns walked right behind you. I mean, it could not.
FEMA camp city to exile the homeless. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore, reports Brandon Walker of freepatriot.org. Under the radar from the prying eyes of the public, South Carolina made it legal to get rid of their homeless problem. These people were given a choice: FEMA camps or jail. That's right, those FEMA camps that the mainstream media says don't exist. So homeless people were housed in 240-bed razor-wire-topped FEMA emergency facilities on the edge of town and told that they could only be shuttled out of the camp if they applied to leave. This was before a big presentation that was coming to the town. They wanted to get the homeless people out of the way. Similar camps are also to be found in Galveston, Houston, New York, Boston, and New Orleans. So again, first they came for the homeless. In times of national emergency, are potentially dangerous political dissidents going to be treated the same way? Are they going to be given the same choice, jail or FEMA camp? This article also documents how similar policies of criminalizing the homeless are beginning to be introduced in Sacramento, Miami, and Southern California. So again, getting people used to the idea of taking the disenfranchised away to the camps. It's already happening.
Again, last night, I asked the Lord to show me something of God, something that I can give to the people. He gave me a dream where I saw myself. I was going with my wife to one of the government building to get assistance from the government, some kind of assistance. I think it was medical insurance. And I said, I don't want nothing from the government, by the way. I want nothing from the government. So I sat in the living room, and my wife, they called my wife into the office for her appointment, and I noticed that as soon as she walked into the office, they grabbed her to bring her in to put on the RFID chip on her. But it was something so sudden that happens. And let me tell you what happened a couple of weeks ago or less. I went to my wife went because she had her medical insurance from the state of Massachusetts, and since we came here to North Carolina, she doesn't have that insurance no more. And so she went and asked her, because they're taking money for the insurance out of her check, out of her money monthly, and so she should have her medical insurance in Medicaid. She's paying for Medicaid, and so she went in praise the Lord, hallelujah. She went and called them and told them. So we went to the office here in North Carolina, and when we went to the office, my wife, I stood in the car with one of the kids. She went in with the other one, and I noticed there were two car cops outside, and they usually there. I've been there twice or three times, and they always park outside this government building. And I noticed that this woman was coming down, and they asked her, "Are you homeless?" And she said, "Yes." And when she said, "Yeah, this is not a dream. What I'm telling you now, this is real. This is real now." And she said, "Yes, I'm homeless." And immediately I saw how the cop grabbed her by the hand, opened the back door of his car, and threw her in the car. And I heard when she said she yelled to the cop, "I haven't broken the law. I haven't done nothing illegal. Why are you doing this to me? I'm only homeless, but I haven't done nothing illegal." And I noticed the cop didn't even read her right. Not even her right was read to her, which I found very weird. And this was outside this building where people go apply for food stamps and all these things, brothers and sisters. And she got arrested outside and thrown in the car. Hallelujah, without the cop reading her right. And so I saw that, and I said maybe she did something wrong or something. I didn't know what it was. So I left it as it was. And so last night, the Lord takes me in the spirit with my wife and I again and showed me as they took my wife in and they grabbed on my wife, hallelujah, and immediately to take her into the office. And I saw like someone came to put the RFID on her right hand, okay? And praise the Lord, hallelujah. The Lord says to me at the end of this dream, when I saw what the government is doing, the Lord says to me, tell them not to trust the government. He says to me, tell them not to trust the government. Hallelujah. They are doing fishy stuff, brothers and sisters. Things are going on in the government weird. We have this homeless girl that we were helping. She told me that one of her friends, homeless, got picked up in the street by the police. He was taken to the FEMA camp. Okay, and in there, while he was in there, they offered him and his friends the RFID, and his friends got it, but he refused to get it because somehow he knew it wasn't right. It wasn't right, brothers and sisters. And he refused the RFID, but they told him that if while he was sitting there in the chair, that they were telling him that if he get the RFID, he will have great benefit. He will be able to get full stamp, okay, and a money assistance from the government. Okay, he will have great benefit, and he didn't even have to wait online or anything. It will just go to his account because he has the RFID. It will be so easy for him, okay, to buy things and just get whatever he needs to get right away. In the government will make it to him very easy. Okay, this happens like a month or two ago. This girl was telling us that thing, and my hair out of my arm, which is when they got straight, and my arm was like, "You kidding me?" She's homeless. She's not gonna come up with this stuff. Hallelujah. They're going through this here, North Carolina, brothers and sisters. Many other states, this is happening. I hear from people. Many states are doing it. They're picking up the homeless. They're taking to the FEMA camp, and they're offering them right away the RFID. But the reason they're offering them the RFID is because as long as the person don't have the RFID, the person doesn't listen to the government. It's like they don't listen. They want to do their own thing. Okay, they have that freedom. But in the moment they take the RFID, their attitude change. They become more mellow, and they just do what the government tells them to do. Hallelujah. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this is happening here. They are offering the RFID, and now the Lord revealed to me this morning, they are trying to give this to the people involuntarily. They're making people have this RFID now. Okay, when he revealed this to me this morning, he said, tell them not to trust the government. Tell them not to trust the government.
I'm on Reseda Boulevard and Roscoe Boulevard in Reseda, California. I'm over here and I noticed that there's some homeless people's carts all lined up by each other, and this is something I've been researching very closely. There's all really usable shit in here. And it's lined up. Look at suitcases, boxes, shit like that. These are really thought out homeless people's carts. And there's like 5 of them lined up. But one thing I realized from watching a lot of videos is that they're rounding up homeless people and they're taking them to either FEMA camps or jails. And I will show you other videos where they're doing this. But this is happening to homeless people first. So not only has the roundup begun, it has begun on homeless people who have no say in the matter, man. They just get taken off. So be alert. Watch out.
Hey guys, this is G for T. We've been seeing a large police presence in Southern California. Everything from pulling people over to massive raids on apartment complexes, houses. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. We could be preparing for martial law. We talked about the militarization of the police. There's also a situation in Sacramento recently where it appeared CHP was pointing armed rifles at citizens going through checkpoints. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police.
Homeless encampments, they're starting to pop up everywhere, and I just thought I'd see this one. This one's like camouflaged pretty well, and right here in the open, you know, hiding in broad daylight. Hey, is anybody back here? Hey, bro? Hello? There you go. It's actually a little house in there.
So of course, as you well know, there's a huge explosion of people on the streets, and whether they are from Southern California or they're coming from other states, we don't know. I might start interviewing them and asking them, you know, where are they from, what drugs are they using, to try to figure out exactly what's happening. But it's almost as if they are doubling by the week. Our emergency response systems, our homeless services are being inundated right now in Southern California. I know in places like South Carolina, they have instituted essentially FEMA camps where they've made it illegal to be homeless, and they go ahead and shift them to facilities outside of the city. That doesn't even come close to happening here in Southern California. And, you know, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one of almost absolute hatred of police. In general, the feeling on the ground is one it's just, the numbers are just amazing. It's the largest numbers of homeless that I've ever seen. This is at the shopping mall. This is like in front of a Best Buy. This isn't like a bad part of town. They are just, it's just increasingly seen. I mean, I walk with my kids throughout the city, haven't had any problems, but you know, definitely, I don't know what needs to be done, but something's happening here. It's just, and here it is on video.
The city's homeless problem, however, is worse now than ever, according to a new report which says that nearly 115,000 people went homeless last year, including nearly 40,000 children. Coalition for the Homeless Workers lay the blame squarely at the feet of Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
He replaced the federal programs with a series of time-limited subsidies that give you only 1 or 2 years of housing assistance and then cut you off, even if the family is too poor to afford the apartment rent. And so as a result of that, lots of families are ending up making a return trip through the city shelter system. It's indisputable that we've got more homeless people now.
That the shelters are overpacked because people are losing their jobs. They're going from their apartments to homes to the city shelters. People that don't take the services, they don't know about them.
Among the many predictions about this recession, one has consistently proven to be true. Forecasters have said unemployment will continue to rise, and it has. Today, the government reported another 467,000 jobs lost in June, taking unemployment to 9.5%, and that's the highest level in more than a quarter century. The rising unemployment raises questions about the economic stimulus, which was supposed to create jobs.
Since the recession began, 6.5 million Americans have lost their jobs, and the unemployment rate
Columbia,
has
South Carolina,
doubled.
voted unanimously to ban all homeless people from its downtown business area. Violators will be jailed, but those who wish to comply can stay at a shelter just outside the city limits. The catch is that they have to be among the first 240 to get there and are not permitted to leave the grounds by any means other than the official shuttle booked by appointment. It's estimated that Columbia has over 1,500 homeless citizens. Police have been assigned to patrol both the restricted city region and the road near the shelter to make sure no homeless people are meandering around either. Should the officers not catch all of the individuals violating the new plan, business owners and residents are encouraged to call the new hotline set up by the city. According to the councilman who proposed the plan, the removal of several benches throughout the city is another measure being taken to ensure the homeless don't make themselves comfortable. South Carolina's ACLU legal director is looking into the situation and said that giving the limited options of being jailed or shuttled out of town is an abuse of power.
For the past 8 years, Dan Duvall has run a sober living center for about 30 homeless people on his 72-acre ranch. In California, a 66-year-old man was jailed Monday after being accused of illegally housing homeless people on his ranch in San Luis Obispo.
After police received reports of strange activity in the area. Whilst police have found no evidence to support such claims, they have suggested that there is a strong possibility they are linked to the disappearances.
Yes, we're talking about a different kind of mystery, though. Disappearances that are not caused by predator attacks or criminals hiding out there in the woods or just bad luck.
I've instructed the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation to issue regulations that would ban outdoor feeding in all city parks.
He was charged with violating Orlando's new city ordinance that bans feeding homeless people gathered in large groups.
Like sleeping on a park bench, eating on sidewalks, or congregating in public spaces, all crimes. This would, in effect, criminalize homelessness.
The regulations are so out of control that in cities all across the U.S., you now have to think twice before giving a hungry person anything to eat.
You said medical transportation?
Yes.
What organization is this?
This is an ambulance company.
Yeah, because I seen some posting I seen a posting somewhere about for homeless people.
Oh yeah, well, we provide transportation to the shelters in the sub-degree temperatures on the regular basis. United Way does that through 211.
Oh, okay. Where, like, because, like, in our area, there's, like, when the shelters come, like, they're, like, at full occupancy half the time. Where do they take the people from there if they don't have any room in the shelters?
I don't know.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure. Maybe they transfer to others, but I'm not sure exactly.
Huh. So you guys just basically, you just dispatch them and... Huh.
They transfer them out. They have someone that coordinates that is not on site here, that are out in the ambulance or in the vehicles that are transporting.
Oh, they don't use they don't use ambulances to transport them then. They use other means of transportation.
Correct.
Huh. And nobody knows where they take the people when shelters are at maximum occupancy, basically.
They coordinate with the shelters. They speak with the shelters on this, with the people that they're bringing in, and they coordinate to take them somewhere else. Where it is, I'm not sure of exactly how the exact ins and outs of that works.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Out there that has passed legislation that is criminalizing homelessness. City council members in Columbia, South Carolina, recently voted unanimously to give people on the streets the option to relocate or to get arrested. Now, this stems from concerns that Columbia has become a, quote, magnet for homeless people, according to the city's emergency homeless response report. And council members are urging people that this is just a temporary stopgap measure. That's something that Councilman Cameron Runyon told local station WIS-TV about. Take a listen.
This is stopgap. This is going to open up a window of opportunity for us to come together as a community to develop the long-term response to this problem. This problem has plagued us for a generation and a half at least.
So you can't come up with the long-term response yet. You just start arresting people. I'd say that it's pretty troubling, John. And as I mentioned, it's not the first city in the United States that we've seen resort to similar measures.
No, there's a few cities that have done this. And, I know they talk about the fact that there's a off-site homeless shelter that they can ship the homeless they arrest to, but one, they have nowhere near the number of beds that equal the Columbia's homeless population, and two, it's police guarded. They can't leave without permission. They have to be shuttled to and from on a special shuttle bus. So I'm not sure, is this a shelter or prison for the homeless? But at the same time, a lot of cities, we've talked about several cities that have been doing this, cited in the article. Cities obviously are looking at their downtown business districts, want to bring in people, but at the same time, let's look at addressing the root cause of homelessness, not criminalizing, the fact that someone, just doesn't have a home because they may not have the job, they may not have the money. A lot of other cities are looking at other ways to address homelessness, not, arresting them, shipping them out to someplace in the middle of no place and putting them in a shelter that may or may not be homeless jail. So
yeah, well,
very interesting.
It's not addressing the problem. It's just that mentality of locking people up and throwing away the key and trying to just forget about it and not even have to acknowledge or visually see that this problem exists anymore, which I just think is horrifying.
If we're going to take this country back, it's going to be activists that does it. And you're it. Praise God. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nothing ever gets done until activists get involved. And we're going to take this nation back, doggone it. We're going to take it back for God and the Constitution. But it's only through activism that we're going to do it. And you are the reason that I'm here today. Praise God. I'm just so pleased to serve with you at this time in our nation's history. God bless all of you out there. I appreciate you very much. I have our publication here, Aid and Abet Police Military Newsletter, and I want to share something with you here. I have a good buddy at one time, J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI. He was not a homosexual like they say. That was a lie that they built up to discredit him. Here's what he said 40 years ago. He said the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it even exists. And that's the problem we have today. This conspiracy is so monstrous, so demonic, that we tell people about it and they say, you're crazy, this is America, it can't happen here. So J. Edgar Hoover said that it was a conspiracy so monstrous that people don't even believe it exists. And that's the problem we have today, folks, is doing that, convincing people that this conspiracy is real. There are red and blue lists out there. Some of you already heard about the red and blue list, okay? And some people are calling my radio talk show on Genesis Communication Network and on the Great Republic Broadcasting Network. And praise God, we got the owner of Republic Broadcasting Network. I think he's going to speak right after me, John, wonderful, patriotic American. But anyway, I've had people calling me saying they go out to their mailbox and they find a little red dot or a little blue dot on their mailbox, and they wonder what the little red dot and blue dot is. Well, it's marking your mailbox by the government, so when foreign troops come in here on us after martial law, if you have a red dot on your mailbox, they take you out immediately and shoot you right in the head. But if you have a blue dot, they take you to the Fema camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans. They're building enough concentration camps in America by Halliburton that Cheney's getting rich off of, Vice President Cheney's getting rich off of, to put those with the blue dot on your mailbox in those concentration camps. Now, if you go out and you find a pink dot on your mailbox, that means that they believe you'll be a good slave and you're going to go along with the program and serve our international Antichrist masters. So watch for that dot. They haven't got up to our area yet because they're afraid we might catch them putting the dots on the mailbox and they wouldn't get back to their home at night, you know, if we catch them. But it's time to prepare, folks. It's time to prepare. It's time to work like we're going to win, which we are, but it's also time to prepare like you may lose temporarily. So I'm going to tell all of you, if you have not bought ammunition, if you have not bought guns, go get them now.
First, they came for the writers. But I didn't speak up because I was not a writer. Then they came for the students. But I didn't speak up because I was not a student. Then they came for musicians. But I didn't speak up because I was not a musician. And then they came for the Greens, the Muslims, the trade unionists, Christians and the Jews, the travelers, the homosexuals, the journalists, the artists, the thuggers, the doctors, the philosophers, the economists, the anarchists and the politicians, the nerds, the Europeans, the Americans, the communists, the hackers, illegals, the homeless. And I didn't speak up because I wasn't any of them. Any of them. And then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak up for me.
If you're not breaking the law, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't worry what the government is doing.
Terrorism, 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 Al-Qaeda, Mohammed, terrorism, terrorism, war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden.
It's not like my government would ever do it to me. But guess what? You're wrong.
Protest is now illegal in the U.S. Move along, citizen.
And yet we just sit there and calmly feel and say, oh, they're making us safe. I don't even know whose side I'm on.
okay? This is straight out of 1984. We're living in a police state.
I never had a choice of what happened to me.
The city is being turned into a police state. Militarized riot gear, LRAD machines, and drones overhead.
Corporations have more power than the government.
Our government now works for the banks.
America, the greatest losses to our freedom have come not from someone attacking us, but from the government ignoring the Constitution and the majority letting them get away with it.
Yeah, we torture. Yeah, we spy on you. Yeah, we do all of this, but it's no big deal. Get used to it. You know what? We're not going to get used to it.
Police have opened fire on the crowd.
We're all in serious, serious danger.
Millions of dollars spent on new police gear, trucks ready to function as rolling barricades.
What you have here is, this is the wars coming home.
If anybody doesn't believe this government is capable of doing these kinds of things, you're out of your mind.
Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again.
Well, you know, America's a strange country. All you need to keep them pacified is give them a dozen donuts and a gun. They don't seem to have the capacity, the intellectual capacity, to think of their own self-interest in any other way than the next 5 minutes.
It's time to wake up.
Wake up, America!
Wake up, America.
You see something, say something. Report suspicious activity to local authorities.
Wake up, America.
I'm going to sit down here with Jake, who's got his dog Bubba. Jake, who is homeless. Jake, you've found yourself some shelter here. Why are you outside during this entire hurricane?
Well, I chose not to go inside yesterday because the Salvation Army and Russian Winds homeless shelter, where they were accepting people, were caught killing everybody that was in there.
I'm sorry. Right. Okay. All right. So clearly you're homeless, and there are some challenges that you face, sir. I'm just curious, what has it been like out here for you?
It's been a little miserable since about 12 o'clock last night. It wasn't too bad before then. About 12 o'clock, lightning, the power went out in the neighborhood over here. And I'm actually a police officer.
Okay, sir. I'm curious, as you're here and you're trying to survive outdoors, do you want us to call somebody to get you some help with?
What's up, guys? I can't substantiate this story or whatever, but I'm just going to report it just like how I see it. But I will tell you, I have seen videos in the past couple months where homeless people are disappearing and stuff like that, but I mean, you just take it with a grain of salt. But man, this story from North Carolina, you can read it for yourself, but it says in North Carolina they're hauling homeless people to FEMA camps and demanded they take a RFID chip. And you can read this for yourself, but it talks about a person named Elvie Zapata or whatever was taken there and demanded that they give them the RFID chip because they were homeless. And it basically says that if you get this, that you will get benefits from the government and EBT cards and stuff like this. But anyway, I just saw this article and I just thought it was pretty interesting. It says, you know, can this be proven? And it says apparently homeless people aren't very good at how keeping appointments, but never fear the government has a solution. And it talks about how they're tracking homeless people and stuff like this. And now I will tell you, homelessness has been granted. I think it's Virginia, no, South Carolina. They made it illegal to be homeless. And they have been taking them to FEMA camps down there and stuff like this. But so it's only the beginning. But like I said, I saw this article and just pretty wild. Just some wild stuff.
Hey guys, it's G4T. Thought I'd cheat this for you really quick, and I'm not even sure what this is. It's like a train of homeless carts, but I never see the people associated with the carts. This is really late at night, and I don't know where they are, who's moving these carts from place to place. It's very eerie, very spooky. It's almost like, who's doing this? I never see people pushing them, but you see the carts and they're moved in one area to another. How's this happening? Where are these people? What are they doing? Why are they doing this?
Like sleeping on a park bench, eating on sidewalks, or congregating in public spaces, all crimes. This would, in effect, criminalize homelessness.
FEMA camp city to exile the homeless. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore, reports Brandon Walker of freepatriot.org. Under the radar from the prying eyes of the public, South Carolina made it legal to get rid of their homeless problem. These people were given a choice: FEMA camps or jail. That's right, those FEMA camps that the mainstream media says don't exist. So homeless people were housed in 240-bed razor wire-topped FEMA emergency facilities on the edge of town. And
let's go to David. You're on the air. Thank you, sir.
Alex, how you doing, my brother?
Pretty good, my friend.
Okay, here's the news now. I'm calling from the home of the state-controlled Bible Belt right here in Columbia, South Carolina. They recently just passed a law. They made it a law. It is criminal in the city of Columbia, South Carolina, to be homeless. And they are actually arresting the homeless and shipping them to encampment centers.
And he told me something very interesting that he found back in the fall of 2000 while he was on a business trip. Listen to this, folks.
I was pulled to the side road, which was a new cut gravel dirt road in front of a business, a builder supply business, actually top-notch builder supply in Madison, Georgia. To my right, this was previously was a soybean field, and this little new cut road divided this field, and the right side of the road was filled with which I thought was portable toilets. I never looked at them that close. Same in color, maybe black, but which was an odd color. And I was sitting there going over my notes, and a van pulled alongside of me that turned out to be the property owner. And he greeted me, and he was by himself, and so we had a good little dialogue there, and I asked him about the field of black boxes. What were they? Because I'd never seen anything like that. And his statement was that if he told me, I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And he says there's 100, at that time he said there was 125,000 there. And they were stacked, he told me 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that the CDC owned them and that they were leasing his land for storage. And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place temporary morgues all across the nation.
So in January of this year, 2005, we decided to drive to beautiful Madison, Georgia and take a look for ourselves. It was on a Sunday and no one was around, with the exception of this one pickup truck that was coming out the narrow road that we were going in on next to this field. We flagged down the pickup truck, and it was providential that the driver of this pickup truck turned out to be the son of the man that owned this field. So naturally, we started asking him questions. And he told us that not long ago, there had been as many as 500,000 of these grave liners or disposable coffins. We asked him for permission if we could look around, and he said yes, so we did.
We're just getting an idea for the size of these boxes. What could these boxes be used for? Well, they're called casket liners. And that's an interesting term, isn't it? It's a casket liner. When I first heard the term casket liner, I thought perhaps a lining for a casket. But this is too big to be on the inside of a casket. So certainly this could be used as a casket. This is an inexpensive casket. And you can see the size here. There's lots of room. I think my friends here, we could all probably get inside, and it might be a little cozy, but we'd fit just fine. Which tells me that these liners can be used for more than just one. And one more time, what kind of liners are these?
Casket liners.
These are casket liners.
That's what the man said.
That's what the man told us. And we're told that there are about, well, there were about 500,000 out here.
Later, as I went back to my home office, I spoke of it there, and of course people usually don't want to hear too much about this kind of thing. So it's never been mentioned, you know, publicly, except just here and there, because most, like I said, the reaction I got, people didn't want to know about it, the few people that I spoke to, and so I just dropped it. And till I went to a luncheon, a fundraiser for Representative Saxby Chambliss. He was running for his second term for the U.S. House of Representatives, and it was a crowd, probably 100, maybe 150. It was congressmen, senators, state senators, and mayors. There was one table we probably had 2 3-star generals and a couple of 1-star with their spouses, so it was a real high-powered meeting. But the keynote speaker was a congressman, and I don't remember his name. He'd just been in the House for a long time, and he was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. And so he just spoke in behalf of Representative Chambliss and the importance of having him on board to be reelected due to our threats. But it had to do with the nuclear devices that was missing from the old Soviet Union and that had gotten into terrorist hands, and it was, the emphasis was on the critical state that we face in this country, and he said we could lose tens of millions of people in the next decade, and he used those terms, due to a nuclear strike on U.S. soil. And I was sitting there, and it became very clear to me that that could very well explain why just weeks, I mean, could be 2 to 3 weeks prior to that meeting, that I had stumbled upon these, at that time, 125,000 disposable liners or caskets or coffins or whatever they could be termed as in that soybean field in Madison, Georgia.
Did you catch what he said, friends? At this high-powered meeting, it was in Perry, Georgia, near Robins Air Force Base, the largest employer in the state of Georgia, Robins Air Force Base. The chairman of the Armed Services Committee was the keynote speaker. The chairman of the Armed Services Committee, whoever that may be, used to be Sam Nunn of Georgia, from the district I was born and raised in. Whoever that chairman is generally one of the most powerful men in Washington. And I can't remember the chairman's name at that time myself, But he said, this was in the year 2000, I believe, that in the next 10 years, possibly due to nuclear strikes, tens of millions of people could lose their lives. And we've just read what our prophet said. Now, what we've just seen is one United States city outside, this is Atlanta, it has a metropolitan population area of roughly 4 million people. So this is one field outside of one U.S. city, and the brother of the man that owns this field, that the government is leasing this field from to store these disposable coffins, this brother was given 3 years to set up temporary morgues around the country. Now, we found the website that we think these disposable coffins were made at, and we noticed that the lids that they're advertising on the website were rounded. But the lids, hundreds of thousands of lids there, the lids we found, folks, were flat, and they were reinforced. You know what that could mean? You can stack them on top of each other. That's a lot neater to stack them in disposable coffins than what we saw after the tsunami, when we would see bulldozers digging holes and taking bodies and pushing bodies into holes. America can stomach this much better.
But we begin tonight with a tale of two speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. Standing inside the National Archives in front of the actual original Constitution, President Obama delivered a blistering critique of the Bush administration, in which he called their actions and their legacy literally a mess.
Our government made a series of hasty decisions. Poorly planned, haphazard approach. Too often, we set those principles aside as luxuries that we could no longer afford. Our government made decisions based on fear rather than foresight. The decisions that were made over the last 8 years established an ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable.
An ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable. Ouch. Then, moments later, he announced his own ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism. President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention. Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? It was based on a Philip K. Dick short story. Came out in 2002. It starred Tom Cruise, remember? He played a police officer in something called the Department of Pre-Crime. Pre-crime is where people are arrested and incarcerated to prevent crimes that they have not yet committed.
Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubinos. Take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes. No, I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything, but you're gonna. Future murder. Creepy, right? Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do?
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat.
You'll remember we spoke to Lance Hare's dad, Mike, who last night, who has been searching for days to try to find his son, searching and even continually calling his son's cell phone.
I started calling him and still never got anything. I mean, I called it all last night. I called it today.
You've still been calling his number?
Well, I can't stop. I don't know why. I do. I stayed up till like 2 o'clock last night, and that's all I did.
Called the cell phone. Does it ring, or?
It rang for the first day and a half, and now it goes straight to voicemail, but just in case he gets it, I want him to know that his dad loves him.
Well, today the family got word, unofficial at first, that Lance is dead. And it turns out he's been in the morgue all along. His family got word through a friend in law enforcement who had access to the morgue and as a favor went there looking for Lance. Now, if the friend hadn't done that, it's likely his family still would not know where Lance is. We also learned about 16-month-old Skylar Logsdon today. His family's been searching too. We've told you his story. Well, it turns out he has also been in the morgue all this time. But listen to this. His family only found out late yesterday, and only because a friend of a friend showed them morgue photos of the body of a small child they thought might be Skylar, and in fact it was. Now, both families are heartbroken, of course, but at least they know where their child is. What's frustrating, however, to other families is that both found out about their kids unofficially, informally, by back channels. Other families have said to us, if those kids were able to be identified, why can't their families have someone visit the morgue and check for their loved ones? Now, of course, some identifications can only be made by DNA, by forensics, but some will be recognizable to loved ones. Now, we want to make it clear, every official that we met in Joplin has been working incredibly hard and trying to do the right thing under very, very difficult circumstances. But some of the explanations for the delays and the red tape and the rules haven't made much sense to people who are searching for their loved ones. And as we said, some people in Joplin continue to be incredibly frustrated. Tonight, the breaking news is that the local coroner now tells CNN that starting tomorrow, some people, under some circumstances, will be allowed into the morgue to view remains. Gary Tuckman is in Joplin tonight with the latest. Gary, what are you hearing now? The state of Missouri took charge of this missing persons list today. What do we now know about people's access to go to the morgue?
Right now, as of this moment, they have no access to go to the morgue. That may change tomorrow. More on that in a second. You've said it yourself, Anderson, people are working very hard here. But what we've seen in this disaster, and we've covered a lot of disasters, is an unusual amount of a lack of compassion and common sense among many of the people here. And the case in point is Skylar Logsdon, the 16-month-old boy. His family frantic. He's missing for 3 days. I interviewed his father just yesterday. His father, Cord, in a hospital bed. His father was seriously injured in the tornado. His son was with him. He was convinced his son was still alive. He was saying, I know he's alive, but I just want to get into the morgue, have someone in my family get into the morgue, or get some pictures from the morgue so we know for sure. But they wouldn't let them in the morgue. And then 2 hours after I interviewed his father, a friend of a friend, as you just said, got them access to 2 pictures of toddlers in the morgue, and one of the pictures was of their son, Skylar. They still haven't found out officially. So they're 90% or 95% sure he passed away, but not 100% because they can't get in the morgue as of yet. So the coroner does say, starting tomorrow, some people, he says, will be able to go into the morgue, but it's not clear yet if that will happen because we're not sure where the governor, who is the boss of the state, stands on the issue.
All right, we're going to talk to the governor, and I asked him this a couple of times, and this just broke literally as we were interviewing the governor. So we'll show you his reaction, and we'll try to get the latest information. You know, last night on the show, the governor said that he would do something about the problems we've been seeing with people, you know, with the slow access, with kind of disorganization. It does seem like he has delivered on that promise. I mean, you know, within a few hours of getting new people in there to take over, they suddenly got this list down to 232.
Right, the governor's working hard. He's doing some good work. The list is at 232, and I can tell you it's actually much lower, the missing list, because we saw a family of 5 on the list. We wanted to go to their house. How could a family of 5 be missing? The house wasn't that badly damaged. We talked to neighbors who say the family's fine. They're just in another town right now. So we know that number will go a lot lower. We can tell you there's some strange things going on here. The morgue, where these bodies are right now, is a secret morgue, and it literally is secret. You call up officials and say, can you tell us where the morgue is? They say, it's a secret, we can't tell you. Families don't know where the morgue is. The families who do know where the morgue is are afraid to tell us because they're afraid they'll get in trouble for telling us, so we had to do some investigating because we wanted to ask questions of the morgue as to what is going on inside the morgue and what happened to this little boy. We wanted to find that out. So we found the morgue after some investigating, and I want to show you this very strange and unusual encounter we had on a public road with law enforcement officials. It felt like we were crossing an international border without a passport.
Hey guys, what are you doing?
We're with CNN.
Okay.
We're trying to find out where the morgue is.
You guys got any cameras or anything?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, they need to be secured in the back of your vehicle.
Well, why is that?
Because we have orders from our lieutenant to do that.
Lieutenant, to do what?
To secure your cameras in the back of the vehicle.
Is there secret activity going on here?
You guys just can't be around here, that's all.
Okay, but why?
Just take your cameras. This is private property there, private property up
but this
there.
isn't.
If you're in the middle of the road, then you're in danger to yourself. As you can see, there's a diesel behind you.
I know, well, that's why I was off the road for a second while I was making a phone call.
Take your cameras and put them in the back of your vehicle.
Okay, we just want to find out about a baby who may be in the morgue.
Is he shooting back there?
Hey, take that camera and put it in the back of your car. All right, go ahead and go. Don't come back.
He told us, don't come back. The police officer actually opened our door, and I was afraid he was going to arrest our cameraman, and that's when he turned off the camera. But we usually don't hear that, Anderson, from the good guys in the blue saying stuff like that.
Yeah. Listen, I understand why they're, concerned about, they don't want people going to this morgue and creating drama and stuff. I want to play for our viewers what the coroner said on Elliot Spitzer's show earlier tonight. Just to try to get a sense of, for people who may be listening and may be thinking, well, can I go to the morgue? Let's play what the coroner said.
What I just stepped out of a meeting at Missouri Southern State University with a group of family members, and they expressed their concerns of just the concerns I've listened to tonight. And the decision was made, if a person can make a positive ID with, let's say, for instance, piercings or tattoos. A lot of people told us about they would have a specific tattoo that nobody else would have. Tomorrow we're going to start the process of allowing those people to view the bodies of the loved ones. If we can make a positive ID, we're going to go ahead and release those bodies.
So that's what the coroner said to Elliot Spitzer. So, Gary, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see tomorrow what exactly the situation is. As you know, Gary, I talked to the governor while that conversation was airing on Elliot's show. I was speaking to the governor in a pre-taped interview, and when we spoke last night with Jay Nixon, Missouri's governor, he promised action. As I said, and on this program we point out a lot when politicians don't deliver on their promises. Well, we also believe in pointing out when they do. The governor has delivered. The state's Department of Public Safety is, as we said, taken over the search for the missing. The governor ordered in some 20 or so officers to help get things organized and sorted out. And as we mentioned earlier, it took them just a couple hours to whittle down the estimated 1,500 unaccounted to a list of about 232 people unaccounted for. So I spoke to the governor a short time ago. I asked him about how that effort is going and also about these frustrations about what we've been hearing about the situation at the morgue. Governor, last night you said on this program that your administration was going to take more direct control. It already has. Just this morning, you guys basically have taken over the effort. The state has taken over the effort to try to locate the missing. The actual number of missing and unaccounted for has now been drastically reduced from the 1,500 that we've been working off of. So clearly, there's already changes afoot. What's the latest from your vantage point?
Well, we did see that challenge. That list of 1,300 was out there from a myriad of sources. We took control of that yesterday morning, brought folks in. They worked all night, got that down to 232. Then this evening had a meeting with all of those families to go through the processes of the necessary identification. Our goal is obviously to get to zero on that number, move down off 232 to zero. Unfortunately, some of those stories are going to be very, very sad. But the bottom line is that we have made significant progress today towards taking away that uncertainty, and we're working all day and all night to finish that task.
You do know this list of 232, obviously, some of these people are going to be alive. In fact, according to the AP, the first person on the list, a woman by the name of Sally Adams, is actually alive. They've already confirmed this. She was in an article that she survived the storm. So this 232 number, you're quickly going to try to whittle that down even more.
Absolutely. We had, over a dozen folks that were able to get off that list very, very quickly late this morning as we move forward. That's good news when you can find folks where there have been calls in, when there have been reports filed that they're unaccounted for. We got these facts out publicly. We want to whittle that down, but unfortunately, there's also some very, very sad stories on that list as we expect some of those folks to be found in a condition that's no longer living.
What we're still hearing a lot of anger about and frustration over is the situation in the morgue, and I got to ask you about it. Gary Tuckman, our correspondent, just reported on a family member who has been shown a picture of her 16-month-old nephew, Skylar Logston, deceased. Now, for days, the family hasn't known whether Skylar was alive or not. Turns out Skylar is in the morgue. She was shown that picture through unofficial channels, and yet she and her family have not been allowed in to see the body and receive actual confirmation that little Skylar is, in fact, dead. How is that possible?
Well, that's one of the reasons we moved to have all 232 of the folks that were missing, the folks that have made those reports in a private meeting with the folks at the morgue, with the other areas. But it's also important to note, Anderson, that this was an incredible storm, and this is not a series of bodies lying in a row that are easily identifiable. There are pieces of folks. There are very, very difficult scenes, and it's not as easy as walking down a row and being able to instantly identify. The DNA matches in unfortunately, a significant number of these are going to be necessary to confirm that. That takes a little while, but it's a reality of a storm of this magnitude that's done this level of damage.
But granted, no doubt about it, and obviously one wants to wait for DNA for final confirmation. But in the meantime, you know, they've been saying that might take 2 weeks. It doesn't seem reasonable to expect a grieving family to, you know, just be told to sit on their hands for 2 weeks. There are plenty of family members who would be willing to, you know, take on the onerous task of walking down that row, and even if the sights are horrible, I know plenty of family members who want that opportunity very badly.
Well, I mean, as I said before, when we got a sense yesterday that the information wasn't moving quickly enough, we came in, we took over that operation. We've seen a dramatic shift today, going from a kind of an unknown list of 232 to a list of 232 confirmed folks, and then moving off that number already today, setting up and having a meeting with the morgue, with all of these families to go through that process.
But it does seem like families who are lucky enough to have a friend in law enforcement who's able to get into the morgue, they've been able, like Lance Hare, for instance. This is a young man. His father's been on TV. I've been on my program last night weeping. He was, you know, doesn't have much money. He was spending what money he could to drive to Springfield to try to look into a hospital there. Turns out his son Lance has been dead in the morgue this whole time, and a family friend who's a law enforcement officer was able to get in and see that it was in fact Lance, because he knows the boy well, and he told the family that their son is in fact dead and in the morgue, and still there's been, you know, no official confirmation of that. That just doesn't seem right, that, you know, a family that luckily enough has a connection is able to find information and get confirmation, and a family that doesn't has to wait 2 weeks. I mean, isn't there some way to speed this up and not just have it be relying on DNA to allow families access?
Well, this has been an unmistakable tragedy, for you know, almost unimaginable tragedy for this community, as it's ripped apart families in so many ways. As I said before, when we got the sense that there was challenges yesterday morning, we acted, and we moved to accelerate dramatically the process. And it's hard to say we had a good day when you're identifying remains of folks that have been killed. I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to show a lack of sensitivity, but as I said to you, Anderson, right here in Joplin yesterday, I think you'll see a significant change. And I think when folks got up this morning, they saw a focused effort towards getting that information out. There's certainly no desire to hide this vital information from these folks in any way, shape, or form. And we're pressing with the resources we have and additional resources to make sure that we get that information out as quickly as possible.
I understand the local coroner now just told CNN tonight that beginning tomorrow, people will be able to get into the morgues and identify bodies. Can you confirm that? Would you support that?
We're going to work to continue, as we did yesterday, to move that number down. We're going to continue to move forward, but there are some very difficult moments ahead for all these families, quite frankly, for this community. And it's a very difficult process. I just want everybody to know that the folks that we've got in there are working as quickly as they can to be sure and to get that information out to those families that are so in need.
I'm just not clear. Again, I don't want to push you on this, but I'm just not clear. Does that mean if in fact the coroner has said people can go, you would support that, or you're not sure at this time and you need to check with him and get back to us?
I don't need to check with anybody. I know that there's people that as this process has moved forward have had access and will continue to have access. That being said, I mean, as the day has moved on, more people have certainly had access to the process. More people have gotten direct notification, but we believe that those people deserve notification first, not by the governor talking in CNN. We're dealing with families here and the lives of people, and I'm going to continue to move a process that focuses on the personal rights and liberties of those individuals and get that information out as quickly as we possibly can.
All right, I think I got the answer on that one. Governor Nixon, I appreciate your time. I know it's been a long day for you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much.
Is this true or false? Why did the US government recently purchase 30,000 guillotines? The use of guillotines for governmental purposes was lobbied for and passed in the US Congress. The information we received is that 15,000 are currently stored in Georgia and 15,000 in Montana. Are the beheadings by Muslims today meant to desensitize us against US government beheadings in the future? According to the article, it says the following. HB 1274 authorizes the state of Georgia to execute citizens by guillotine. Georgia House of Representatives 1995-1996 sessions. HB 1274 death penalty, guillotine provisions code sections the 17th of October 2038 / the 17th of October 2044. A bill to be entitled an Act 1-1 to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 17 of the official 1-2 Code of Georgia annotated relating to the death penalty 1-3 generally, so as to provide a statement of legislative 1-4 policy, to provide for death by guillotine, to provide for 1-5 applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other 1-6 purposes. Section 1. 1-8 The General Assembly finds that while prisoners condemned to 1-9 death may wish to donate one or more of their organs for 1-10 transplant, any such desire is thwarted by the fact that 1-11 electrocution makes all such organs unsuitable for 1-12 transplant. The intent of the General Assembly in enacting 1-13 this legislation is to provide for a method of execution 1-14 which is compatible with the donation of organs by a 1-15 condemned prisoner. Is this true or false?
Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. You can visit us on www.therealthingmean.webs.com.
The nation's third botched execution in 6 months has rekindled the debate over the death penalty. Arizona inmate Joseph Rudolph Wood was pronounced dead at 6:49 p.m. yesterday, 1 hour and 57 minutes after the execution began. Witnesses report him gasping for 90 minutes. The execution took so long that his lawyers had time to file an emergency appeal while it was happening. The Arizona Supreme Court also called an impromptu hearing on the matter and learned of his death during the discussions. It is the third execution gone awry this year in the U.S., including one in Ohio, in which an inmate gasped in similar fashion for nearly a half hour.
And finally, a U.S. federal judge has called for the return of firing squads as a method of execution following a recent string of botched lethal injections. Alex Kozinski labeled the lethal injection method as a dishonest attempt to disguise the brutal nature of capital punishment. Kozinski justifies his distaste for lethal injections, claiming the method is hampered by drug shortages. He insists that firing squads would never be troubled by a lack of guns or ammunition. The chief judge also said the guillotine is probably the best method, but seems inconsistent with national ethos. Kozinski's comments come after the botched lethal injection of Arizona.
People generally forget the mistakes of the past. Citizens who were caught up in Hitler's Nazi Germany hardly noticed the gradual development of extremism, mainly due to high emotions and dazzling propaganda. But history often repeats itself. Fema plastic coffins, detention centres, armoured checkpoints and armoured military vehicles for civil purposes are well-documented facts. And witnesses who have worked for the United States military claim stores of guillotines located in Fort Lewis military facility. The latest revelation of Obamacare sanctions death by guillotine, code ICD 9E978. However, Obama was only following the mandate of the World Health Organization, one of the specialized agencies under the United Nations. Is the United States government getting ready for a fascist quasi-dictatorship involving forced religion? It would not be the first time that fascism and counterfeit Christianity have merged.
President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
All right, folks, there's a lot going on right now. Decisions being made that are unprecedented and will have an overreaching impact on what it means to live in the United States of America. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives have just overwhelmingly passed the National Defense Authorization Act. Squeezed into this military funding bill are two provisions that give the military not just lots and lots of money, but lots and lots of power as well.
A new generation of surveillance drones could soon be watching us all. The Federal Aviation Administration is expected to announce plans to expand the use of domestic drones in American airspace.
Well, get ready to look up at the sky and see drones hovering above. As of now, unmanned aircraft could only be used by military airspace and by certain law enforcement agencies. But this week, Congress passed a bill that would allow for commercial and private use of the drones.
I have two words for you. Predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
For shopping and dining over Thanksgiving and maybe watching some football games, big government Republicans and Democrats were busy shredding the last vestiges of the Constitution. Senators John McCain and Carl Levin want to enact a law that would declare the entire United States of America a battlefield for the military. They're talking about inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports this bill, says, quote, "The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not."
The Department of Homeland Security buying ammunition, now looking to purchase another 21 million rounds of ammunition. This in addition, of course, to the 1.6 billion rounds that Homeland Security has bought in just the past 10 months. Now, to put all of this in perspective, the military used approximately 70 million rounds each year of the Iraq War. 70 million rounds in a war.
If you look at what the Department of Homeland Security has been purchasing over the last year, it comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, more than 7,000 fully automatic assault weapons, 2,700 MRAP type vehicles, and now drones. Those are instruments of war. Department of Homeland Security's, who are they going to fight a war against?
Something happened.
Robert Whitaker, the Tactical Supervisor for El Paso SRT for Homeland Security Investigations. Well, we have our big vehicle out here. It's an armored vehicle. It's an MRAP vehicle. It's mine resistant, ambush protected. That's what it stands for. This is what we use to deliver our team to high-risk warrant services.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
Important breaking news out of Boston. A pair of bombings rocked the finish line at the historic Boston Marathon.
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there. FBI and all these agents coming in, closing things down, going to people's houses. Do we close down cities because there's 10 murders over the weekend in Chicago? We don't do that. But here we close down a whole city, not even allowed to go to a baseball game. I mean, I think it's very, very scary when I look at some of those pictures.
The military likes to perform war games, so that's why we're seeing military on the streets practicing. They are actually practicing. The tanks that we see on the streets and the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods and the practices that they're doing with our local police department, this is all in preparation for martial law, so that when they do actually lock down the country, they've got everything secured.
But I think what we're starting to see, for anybody who is objective at all, is we're seeing a totalitarian system now unveil itself. And ever since essentially 9/11 happened, it's been more and more of these draconian measures that are leading us right down the road to martial law.
Particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
This last week, the U.S. Congress passed a bill which repeals classic comitatus, which means that we have now institutionalized and codified martial law. Right now, the battle against terrorism involves all of us. Everybody in this country is a potential terrorist.
We don't even understand freedom anymore. We are a country that is headed towards socialism, totalitarianism, beyond your wildest imagination. I have to tell you, I'm doing a story tonight that I wanted to debunk these Fema camps. I'm tired of hearing. You know about them? Sure. I'm tired of hearing them. I wanted to debunk them. Well, we've now for several days done research on them. I can't debunk them.
I don't know anything about them. So.
It is our government. If you trust our government, it's fine. If you have any kind of fear that we might be headed towards a totalitarian state, look out, buckle up. There's something going on in our country that is ain't good.
And they find a little red dot or a little blue dot on their mailbox, and they wonder what the little red dot and blue dot is. Well, it's marking your mailbox by the government, so when foreign troops come in here on us after martial law, but if you have a blue dot, they take you to the FEMA camps being built by Halliburton right now to house 50 million Americans. They're building enough concentration camps in America by Halliburton. So I'm going to tell all of you, if you have not bought ammunition, if you have not bought guns, go get them now. Go get them now, because you won't be able to get them much longer.
Change has come to America.
Practice Christianity and you could be court-martialed. That could be the new law of the land for our armed forces, thanks to a proposal by a religious tolerance group that claims Christian evangelists are predators.
Is a war on religious liberty within the military, and that the Christianity of service members is now coming under attack by the Obama administration.
These two workers have microchips?
Right. Well, this is very, very real, and these microchips are about the size of a grain of rice. They get injected into your skin.
Futuristic film. Humans injected with a tiny chip holding the key to all of their private information.
But as you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. Life-saving technology.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers in a brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
It is the first implantable microchip for humans. It has multiple security, financial, and healthcare applications.
One thing I would just suggest, I'm just an outside, soon-to-be investor. I love this idea, by the way, Scott. I think this...
The Northside Independent School District in San Antonio has put tracking chips in the ID badges for more than 4,000 high school students.
Well, it looks and sounds like something out of the future, but a new palm scanning device will help Bossier Parish schools keep better track of what children are eating at. The electronic device will be implemented at all Bossier Parish schools.
Now we're seeing a complete totalitarian takeover of the United States of America. And we've been talking about this for years now. This is the police state. This is the police state. This is what a total breakdown of our society looks like. But we're seeing all of this intensify. This is all intensifying around the Second Amendment. Should we be able to own guns or not? Let's take guns away from the people. These are very big, very hardcore issues.
No matter what your purpose is, you must leave. If you do not disperse, you may be arrested and or subject to other police action. The use of riot control agents and or less lethal munitions, which could cause risk of injury to those who
police now moving in.
American, every person on United States soil or international soil can be deemed as a terrorist. If they have really any reason to want to detain you, they don't need to acknowledge your Fourth Amendment rights.
It's what supported things like the Patriot Act and now the NDAA and the ever-encroaching police state.
By order of the City of Pittsburgh Chief Police, I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately disperse. You must leave the immediate vicinity.
Urban military training exercises are becoming an increasingly common sight in many U.S. cities. The Department of Homeland Security has spent the past year acquiring more than 1 billion rounds of high-performance ammunition. Do these developments suggest concerns over a potential terrorist attack? Are they preparations for widespread social upheaval? Is there perhaps something even more sinister underway? As an insider at the Department of Homeland Security who described urban warfare training as, quote, desensitizing exercises all across the U.S., adding that, quote, we're being prepared for mass civil unrest in major U.S. cities. DoD will be expected to help.
But we begin tonight with a tale of two speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. Standing inside the National Archives in front of the actual original Constitution, President Obama delivered a blistering critique of the Bush administration, in which he called their actions and their legacy literally a mess.
Our government made a series of hasty decisions. Poorly planned, haphazard approach. Too often, we set those principles aside as luxuries that we could no longer afford. Our government made decisions based on fear rather than foresight. The decisions that were made over the last 8 years established an ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable.
An ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable. Ouch. Then, moments later, he announced his own ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism. President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention. Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? It was based on a Philip K. Dick short story. Came out in 2002. It starred Tom Cruise, remember? He played a police officer in something called the Department of Pre-Crime. Pre-crime is where people are arrested and incarcerated to prevent crimes that they have not yet committed.
Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubinos. Take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes. No, I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything, but you're gonna. Future murder. Creepy, right? Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do?
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes.
Al-Qaeda terrorists and their affiliates are at war with the United States, and those that we capture, like other prisoners of war, must be prevented from attacking us again.
Prevented. We will incarcerate people preventively. Preventive incarceration. Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today, if you strip away the euphemisms. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, we've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning. And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Our government was defending positions that undermine the rule of law to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future? How can those two things coexist in the same man, even in the same speech? Well, that brings us to the self-consciously awkward, embarrassing part of this speech today. After condemning the Bush administration for what he called their ad hoc legal strategy for trying to make things seem legal that patently weren't, this is what President Obama proposed.
My administration has begun to reshape the standards that apply to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. We must have a thorough process of periodic review so that any prolonged detention is carefully evaluated and justified. Our goal is to construct a legitimate legal framework for the remaining Guantanamo detainees that cannot be transferred. Our goal is not to avoid a legitimate legal framework. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals to keep them from carrying out an act of war, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. And so going forward, my administration will work with Congress to develop an appropriate legal regime so that our efforts are consistent with our values and our Constitution.
You'll construct a legal regime to make indefinite detention legal. You will, what does he say? Develop an appropriate legal regime. So you can construct a whole new system outside the courts, even outside the military commissions, so that you can indefinitely imprison people without charges. And you'll build that system from scratch. What's that somebody said about ad hoc legal strategies? Just for context here, in the United Kingdom, where there isn't even a Bill of Rights, there's been a major debate about whether people can be held in preventive detention. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair wanted 3 months to be the outer limit for how long anyone could be held. There was a big political fight about it. Parliament ended up limiting that power to 28 days. 28 days is still the longest period of preventive detention that's allowed under law in any comparable democracy anywhere in the world. How long would President Obama's proposed preventive indefinite detention last? Well, he's not saying yet, but here's how he defines the threat that he says makes indefinite detention necessary.
Right now, in distant training camps and in crowded cities, there are people plotting to take American lives. That will be the case a year from now, 5 years from now, and in all probability 10 years from now.
10 years from now. So you could get arrested today and locked up without a trial, without being convicted, without being sentenced for, say, 10 years until the threat of your future criminal behavior passes? Prolonged detention, he's calling it. This was a beautiful speech from President Obama today with patriotic, moving, even poetic language about the rule of law and the Constitution, and one of the most radical proposals for defying the Constitution that we have ever heard made to the American people.
Hello everyone, you're not going to believe this. In New York recently, there was a spectacle on the Empire State Building. This is the Times of India reporting, or this report that I'm going to be reading. But as the picture you're seeing, this is actually being projected on the Empire State Building in New York. This is the goddess Kali. Kali, the figure of Kali conveys death, destruction, and the consuming aspects of reality. As such, she is also a forbidden thing, or even death itself. I'm going to try and pronounce this as best I can. This is off of Wikipedia. Panktavata ritual. The Sadhaka boldly seeks to confront Kali and thereby assimilates and transforms her into a vehicle of salvation. This is clear in the work of Kapaduri Storta, a short praise of Kali describing the ritual under her performed on cremation grounds. Okay, so what is being also displayed at CERN? CERN is Shiva, Kali, because one's the light and one's the dark. It depends on how you look at it. This is Satan and Lucifer, not obviously directly, but this is just an image of Satan and Lucifer, because Satan is the dark and Lucifer is the light, false light. Jesus Christ is the original and the true light. New Delhi. In a breathtaking spectacle, goddess Kali was projected on the Empire State Building in New York. Artist Andrew Jones designed the portrait of the goddess to make the point that Mother Nature now more than ever needs a fierce avatar to fight the dangers of pollution and extinction, FirstPost.com reported. Earlier images of endangered species, including Cecil the lion, were also projected on the iconic building. Before we go any further, I want to show you a picture, and this picture is Kali riding a lion. You don't think that anything might gel with Cecil the lion in Zimbabwe? Well, let me tell you this. Kali is the destroyer. She sticks out her tongue. Miley Cyrus is going to be hosting the VMAs. What is she known for? Her stupid tongue. Beyonce in the 7-Eleven video was also wearing a Kali shirt. This is obviously occultic, and it means quite a bit. It's quite common that Kali is actually seen riding a lion into battle. She's known as the destroyer, doomsday, all that stuff. And she was just displayed on the Empire State Building in New York. You know what's funny? It's not really funny. It's kind of, I want you to think back to April 2015. There were 9,000 people died. 23,000 people were injured in an earthquake. It was called the Gorkha earthquake. Or that's what it was titled after the fact. It was in Nepal. Nepal, guess who their goddess is? You guessed it. Kali. Their main religion is Hinduism, and they're banned or either close to banning Christianity. Now, guess what? In straight stupidity, New York, the Empire State Building, the iconic Empire State Building, the icon of New York, built on May 1st, 1930 or 31, I can't remember exactly, just displayed the destroyer, the demonic destroyer. You don't think that's a coincidence, do you? Goddess Kali takes over the Empire State Building. This is just beyond belief. I want to say one more thing. This is obviously, there's no point making a long video. It's pretty simple. I mean, if you'd like, I'll read the rest of the article. Maybe I will at the end because it's just tweets. But last year during the Super Bowl, if you recall, what's her name? Oh man, Katy Perry, that's right. She rode it on a tiger. That's also one of the main, Kali goes into battle. She either rides a lion or a tiger. If we haven't got the drift yet, they're definitely trying to summon something through mainstream events. In the picture you saw earlier, she was riding a lion because, well, this is all coming right after Cecil the lion. Half the world was very upset at Cecil, but nobody gives two craps about all the kids that are dying and being sold. All the unborn, aborted fetuses that are being sold, and now you can buy them publicly. Alright, let's go over some of these tweets here. I'm just going to flash the pictures. I probably won't say it and read it because you can read it. I began to get a little curious about who was the artist, I should say. Well, you're staring at him, the guy with the behind the computer with all these strange pictures on it. You'll never guess what those pictures are. The first image is actually an image of a Star of David up top. You could also say that's a pyramid with the eye up top. Do not disturb bending time and space. That's more or less the phrase I wanted to get to before I lose the picture and go on to the next one here. What does that sound like to you? And what is CERN's main goal? They've said it themselves on their website. It's to time travel, to bend space and time. Really? Oh yeah. Everything is just a coincidence. Nothing happens for a reason. There it is again. I just wanted to show you a better picture. This guy is really about this pyramid. And obviously they have a little hashtag going around. It's called Racing Extinction. You know, it might help if you don't run to the goddess of destruction. I don't know, just a thought. We could give our lives to Jesus Christ. I mean, that might help. I'm not sure though. I mean, I've done it. It's helped me. But clearly, there's a motive behind this. Clearly, it's a destructive motive. Clearly, something is coming to New York. We'll see what happens. That's all I got. God bless and carry on.
Kingdom's Information Commissioner claims that in 2017, consumers will be cashless shoppers. A microchip holding personal bank account and credit card information will be implanted into the body, connecting to a database that will know who they are, where they live, what they like, and what they don't like. Shoppers will have their hand scanned, not their credit card.
Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is human. Its number is 666.
Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
No matter who you meet, if you say 666, all of a sudden, they know what you're talking about.
2,000 years ago, John the Apostle received a revelation from God, predicting the arrival of the false prophet and the man of sin.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
The most powerful nation on earth is set to betray its citizens, with new mandatory revisions to citizenship and constitutional privacy.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
We want to investigate how close we actually are to implementing the mark of the beast. We're going to find out that we are closer than most people think. Now, the prophecy foretells a time when each of us will have a mark or a number without which we will not be permitted to buy or sell. It paints a picture of a system of total control.
A system touted as a national security necessity is being used to build a database where the biometric identity of millions of Americans will be gathered and stored.
We're meeting with the president in order to formulate legislation that would require every person in the United States of America who is employed to carry a biometric identification card with them.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
The president put in a lot of money in the stimulus package to advance medical records so that if you have the chip, you can carry the records with you. They can stick it in a computer. They can know all your situations.
They'll have a GPS chip in there so that they can measure everybody, every instant, no matter where they go.
Your ID card would have either your fingerprint, your thumbprint on there, or it would have a reading of the veins in the back of your hand.
If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.
Researchers are developing sheets of ultra-thin, ultra-flexible electronics that can stick to your body. These electronic skins, or e-skins, can bend when you flex your elbow and twist when you rotate your wrist. Researchers are just beginning to imagine all the medical innovations that could come from these e-skins. University of Tokyo professor Takao Somea has been developing electronics that are flexible, bendable, and stretchable for 10 years. Somea's goal is to create electronics that are as pliable as human skin. And he's come a long way in a decade. This is Somea's latest prototype, an electronic sheet that is 10 times thinner than plastic kitchen wrap. It is light enough to float through the air like a feather. The first challenge in manufacturing e-skins is to find a way to produce flexible electronics. Somea fabricates his circuits using thin film transistors, which can be printed on plastic films. These films are well suited for synthetic skins because the material is cheap and easy to handle. Somea's material can be stretched, folded, or crumpled up like paper, but the electronics on it still work. That's why it might be useful for biomedical applications. This lightweight material can cling to human skin, and it can bend and stretch as people move their bodies. E-skin could be used for health monitoring systems and wearable medical instruments. By adding sensors to the circuits, researchers can measure the electrical activity of an athlete's muscles or a hospital patient's vital signs. One day, it might even become synthetic skin for robots or humans.
Anyone who takes the mark is immediately thrown into the lake of fire. There's no grace, there's no mercy. It's just, you've got the mark, bam, you're in a lake of fire.
If you pledge allegiance to the Antichrist, you will be eternally damned according to the Bible.
How would you like to have an RFID microchip implanted underneath your skin? Or maybe an electronic tattoo that sticks to your arm or your wrist? Not only does it look badass and trendy, but it's also every bit as useful and complex as your smartphone. Now, I know it sounds like something futuristic or even something out of a science fiction movie, but guess what? The future is now. Not only does this technology already exist, but it's already being developed and implemented at a rapid and accelerated pace as the technological elite finally begin to bridge the gap between our digital and physical identities.
It sounds like science fiction, placing a microchip under the skin to get you in your door, to start your car, or maybe give your doctor your medical history.
Or what if your child were to disappear? Would you be willing to place a chip in your child if it might help them bring them home? Barry Davis recently looked into what all this technology is about and the possibilities of this science.
According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, more than 2,000 children are reported missing each day. Most are found, some never are. But what if there was the technology which could help bring those children home? And that technology was no bigger than a grain of rice.
Elliot! Oh gosh. He's on the swings. Okay. Yeah, that scared me.
It's something most every parent has felt. That sick panic
You're watching your child play, having fun. You turn your head for just a moment, and they're gone.
My stomach drops, I feel nauseous and dizzy, and I imagine all of the horrible things that could happen.
Trish Dickerson is the mother of a rambunctious 3.5-year-old who has no fear of anything or anybody.
And it scares me. It scares me so much. Someone would just be like, hey, I have candy. And he'd be like, heck yes, candy.
We've been microchipping our pets for years, so why not use that technology to protect something far more precious?
It's technically realistic.
Stuart Lipoff is an electronics engineer who's watching the microchip industry closely. He says by placing signposts or portals like this handheld unit for animals in key locations, you could track someone. Some people are already placing microchips in their hands, which help them control everything from their computers to opening their front doors. And most of us use microchips every day to open doors to work or buy lunch with a debit or credit card.
The ick factor, it still is kind of icky of, having somebody, put something into your body that's a foreign thing.
Lipoff says it's only a matter of time before people realize how beneficial it could be, and not just for convenience, but in what literally could be a life-saving instance.
I might be one of those moms. In a heartbeat, I think I'd have him chipped, just so I would feel safer.
There are devices you can buy to put on your kids which allows you to track them with GPS. Right now, the technology to track a microchip with GPS isn't available. At least, not available to the public.
But here's what you should really worry about, and watch. It will unfold like this. First, the RFID chip, radio frequency identification. It's already been put in the Blink credit cards, passports, license tags. They're everywhere. Watch for a full court press to have them implanted in your pets. Not an ID chip, a tracker. They're beta tested, but you'll start to see more of them at your vet's offices. OnStar for your pooch. You can track your little doggy. Peace of mind. Next, if it's good enough for your dog, it's good enough for your child. A tiny little RFID chip the size of a grain of rice. Completely safe. Easy to remove. Your child is now kidnap-proof. And the placement of the chip will be varied, so God forbid some sicko doesn't look at one particular place to forcibly remove it. OnStar for your child. No more Amber Alerts, no more kidnapping, no more parents' worst nightmare. After all, if it's good enough for your pet, it's good enough for your child. Then, the elderly. Forget that I've fallen and can't get up business. Oh, no, this RFID chip will have all of Grandma's medical information and data on it. And if they have dementia and wander off, you'll be able to track them. After all, if it's good enough for your dog. Then once it's deemed cool, teens will insist on their own chip. They're already tattooing barcodes. It's cool. It's their own number. And this will be your own chip, all of your information, always stressing the medical information bit. What information? She's 20 years old. Shh. It's for her own good. And you can track them. And you know that kids won't wear watches anymore. They've got cell phones with the time on it. In your cool chip, no need for driver's licenses, credit cards, debit cards, keyless entry, ID. No. The RFID chip will have it all there. All of it. Goodbye wallets. After all, what's a wallet for? ID, cards, not anymore. Oh, and money will be completely cashless. Blink terminals will read your chip. Think Easy Pass or MetroCard. No cash, no drug trafficking, no terrorism. Make any connection you want. No one's listening anyway. Then you'll beg for one. Everything's on the chip. Everyone's on the grid. The grid is a 24/7 real-time tracking of you. Everyone will have this cool chip. Everyone's on the grid. And if you're convicted of breaking some law, they don't send you to prison. They turn off your chip. Poof. You don't exist. No money, no identity, no existence. And you're worried about an iPhone being tracked? You ain't seen nothing yet.
To think something so small could control you.
And everything you do. When your life and all you love are on the line.
The RFID chip is always with you, threatening your privacy, causing severe risk to your health and personal safety, and killing you if you do not obey rogue government demands.
Because I want to increase my risk of cancer.
Because I want to live in a cash-free society.
Because now, the government is looking out for us.
Because I have the mark of the beast, but it doesn't have me.
Ask your doctor how to get your chip implanted today.
Side effects may include, but are not limited to, depression, drowsiness, itchy throat, high blood pressure, low blood sugar, heartburn, bad breath, athlete's foot, acid reflux, gingivitis, upset stomach, blurred vision, cottonmouth, sore throat, sore gums. Even more side effects include spontaneous combustion, Down syndrome, bankruptcy, back problems, gout, temporary blindness, heart failure, dyslexia, total shutdown of vital organs. Other side effects include paralysis, neurocorrosion, seizures, AIDS, lung drowning, kidney failure, testicle erosion, change in skin pigmentation, dwarfism, moderate to severe Crohn's disease, cardiac arrest, detached retina, loss of teeth, peeling skin, death. It's time you took control of your life. Don't turn down another invitation.
Because we want to track your every move.
This just in, you're looking at what is obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the Vectron Pacific reactor near Seattle. We have unconfirmed reports.
CDC has ordered evacuation of all non-essential personnel within a 5-mile radius.
The National Guard has begun distributing potassium iodide tablets.
This is coming in live. It is raw footage. Appears to be some kind of statement from the KVA leader, Hades.
My fellow citizens of the world, today you are afraid. You are afraid because you have been woken from your sleep.
There are some days we never forget. Moments burned into our memory until the day we die. Where were you the day everything changed? 4 years ago, one man tried to destroy our way of life. One man tried to throw the world into darkness. It felt like we could never find our way back. But we did. Together. When you were vulnerable, we gave you our strength. When you were sick, we delivered you the cure. When there was chaos, we brought you order. Stability. Safety. A chance to start again. Who are we? We're the way forward.
Welcome to Detroit! 2.5 million people live in camps just like this one. No fucking holiday. But they got food, water, security, all courtesy of Atlas. Now, the KVA have the balls to move in next door. Fuck me.
You look like shit.
22 days straight. KVA doesn't take a break. Neither do we.
Copy that. They were gonna start moving people back in next month. Then the KVA showed up. Now everything's on lockdown.
They're protecting our target. We still locked in on him?
Dr. Pierre Danois. He's in the Midtown Hospital. We're green.
4 years of hunting down Hades, and his right-hand man turns up at our doorstep. Fucking brilliant.
Hey, hey!
Once your DNA is in the system, you'll be assigned a job. Now, there is some flexibility. We want your time here to be happy, but we do need to match skills with tasks. If you have a question, ask someone with a red badge. Remember, nothing happens unless you get your DNA chip. Kids and adults alike. No test engine, no excuse. Everyone needs a DNA chip. We appreciate your patience. Just want to get everyone.
1 second, Captain.
Scanning for isotopes. Please wait.
What the hell are the KVA doing in Detroit, boss?
An empty city without police or eyewitnesses. Good place to hide something. Or someone.
Last night I dreamt about how things were.
Of every enemy of the state!
And then I woke up here.
Hello brothers and sisters, this is Cheyenne, loving warrior for Christ, and I'm a watchman on the wall, and I just wanted to share this video with y'all. Please take the time and read each of the pictures because they have Bible scriptures involved. A lot of people think that the mark of the beast is like a day of the week, and if you look at the scriptures that are written into this video, you'll see that it's not just a day of the week. It's an actual literal mark that goes in your hand or your forehead, and we need to inform as many people as we can never to receive this mark. It looks like it may be coming out really soon, and we don't need to be fooled by the government to think that it's just some kind of new technology and that everything's going to be alright, that's going to make our life better again. It's a end-time Bible prophecy that says that the Antichrist will cause many people to receive a mark in their right hand or their forehead, and it could be their left hand because some people may have their arm chopped off or cut off, and they may not have that right arm. So it could be any arm, and it could be in your forehead. So
the following scriptures are found in Revelation, referring to the mark of the beast in Revelation. Please take heed to their warnings, and if you can, study them fervently in your own time. God bless. Revelation 13, 16 through 18. And he causeth all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Revelations 20:4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Revelation 19:20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Revelation 14:9-11. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name.
you.